It's question, answer, 1 minute answer, question, 1 minute answer.
I thought we had to
So we're doing-
I thought we were gonna have fun. I thought this was friendly.
Unless we're doing conflict, we got.
I'm never gonna trust him again.
We don't care, don't worry.
I guess. So what do you guys want to do?
That's pro side, that's con side.
Oh, yeah.
I stand with. Are you guys paying attention?
When do I go?
All right, ladies and gentlemen, are we ready? Yeah. All right.
Class creates more obstacles to success than race. First of all, I would like to define some of the words. There's a huge difference between terms race and ethnicity. Race is what a person's skin color and physical features are, while ethnicity is geographical and cultural roots. Of course, as individuals, we define success differently, but since we live in a capitalist society, most people's concept of success involves being middle class or wealthier. Once class defines their access to opportunities and even basic needs. The working class cannot afford many services, including health care. I quote the Commonwealth Fund report when I say the percentage of working-age Americans with moderate to middle income who lack health insurance rose to 41% in 2005, a dramatic increase from 28% in 2001 without coverage. The statistics relate to the Jersey Health Service report showing that people of lower social classes are more likely to suffer from pneumonia and many other infectious and parasitic diseases. Men are more likely to suffer from cancer and diseases of the nervous system. Women are more likely to suffer from metabolic disorders. The survey also shows that people who are constantly lower class throughout their whole lives are 4 times more likely to suffer from extreme stress than people who are never poor. There are differences in the diet and fitness of different social classes and in certain habits like smoking. The majority of world smokers, 80%, live in low or middle income countries. Statistics show that compared with non-smokers, smokers in the U.S. have lower socioeconomic status and worse physical health status. All these statistics point to the fact that bad health limits one's ability to pursue their goals and may limit their ability to provide basic needs for themselves and their family. Because a person's social class is determined by their economic status, the less money a person makes, the less they are respected in society. Lower class citizens get fewer opportunities to get a good education because of their inability to pay for expensive bills. Barbara Ehrenreich, a journalist and prolific writer on social issues, decided to work in a series of low-wage jobs to determine if it was possible to survive or have a good life as a member of the working class. In her book Nickel and Dime, she presents some interesting statistics. It turned out that 15% of homeless people actually hold full-time work. One of the places Ehrenreich worked was at Walmart. Low-wage earners not only make up Walmart's clientele, but many of them are actually its employees. According to Simon Head, as the author of Inside of Leviathan, Walmart's extraordinary gains in productivity in recent decades are closely connected to its relentless efforts to hold down labor costs. In 2003, the average hourly pay of Walmart clerk was $8.50, which adds up to $14,000 a year, or $1,000 less than the federal government's definition of poverty for a 3-person family. With such low salaries, there's no way for a person to keep his family above poverty line, since the living age for 1 adult and 2 children is around $30,000. What could be a large obstacle in life than slaving away at a full-time job for years and still not being able to afford even the most basic of needs in life? So class is the biggest obstacle to success.
Ready? So I'm going to start out with a quote. I do not think that white America is committed to granting equality to the American Negro. This is a passionately racist country, and it will continue to be so in the foreseeable future. Susan Sontag. Although this debate is not strictly focused on African Americans, I chose this quote because it sums up what I am about to prove about racism being an obstacle to success. Racism is more of a barrier to success than class because of the racism that is so deeply rooted in American culture. Success can be defined as the attainment of wealth, position, honors, or the like. I am focusing on wealth because in the United States, It's impossible to have everything you want and need if you can't afford it. The first point that I'm going to prove is that white people are the racial majority in higher economical positions. Secondly, that white people are the majority attending college and going on to higher paying jobs so they can remain in higher classes. Thirdly, I am going to prove that the history of racism in the United States has carried through to today and continues to keep certain races out of power and unsuccessful. The first point that I would like to make is from the economic standpoint, where there is a correlation between certain races and their status in society. Typically, white people are in the higher economical positions and thus the higher classes. Why is this? Why are 11.8% of the African Americans in this country in poverty when only 4.4% of the white population is in poverty? Throughout American history, white people have been in the positions of power and people of other racial groups have not. I'm here to prove that there is an obvious correlation between class and race, and it keeps people of certain races from achieving success. My opponents will argue that the reason many people are not financially successful is because of class. I would have to agree that it's harder to become successful when you're coming from lower classes, but clearly class and race are closely connected. From 2002 to 2003, 70% of the 943,745 white people enrolled in bachelor's degree programs graduated. That's 66,000 people. However, only 8.7% of the 117,774 African Americans enrolled in bachelor's degree programs graduated. That's only 10,200 compared to the 66,000 white people who graduated. There are even less Hispanic and Asian American people who are earning bachelor's degrees in the United States. The reason is that throughout history they have been discriminated against and used to do hard labor for whites and discouraged from getting education and high salary jobs. As a result, they have ended up in the lower classes where they have a much harder time achieving success. That is not to say that it isn't getting better, but they will have to work harder to reach the same level of income as a typical white person with a bachelor's degree. The average annual salary for a person with a bachelor's degree is $68,728. But without a bachelor's degree, you're lucky if you get paid over the federal U.S. minimum wage, which has been $5.85 per hour since July 24th, 2007. Not only are white people dominating the upper classes, they are also the majority earning college degrees. The only logical conclusion to make is that the correlation between class and race shows that race is more of a barrier to success than class.
Let me ask the question first.
Go ahead.
When you stated about 70% of white people and versus 11% of African Americans graduating, was there any complaints about racial bias that were reported during that time? Or?
I was strictly looking at statistics and not individual accounts.
My question is, what were your sources for the information that you found about the 11.8 black people in poverty and 4.4 white people in poverty?
I believe it was the census, the 2006 census. So, you mentioned in your opening statement a bunch of statistics about smoking and how it leads to bad health, but I was wondering if you could clarify how smoking keeps you from being successful.
Well, with smoking comes bad health, and with bad health comes less with bad health comes not being able to work as much as you can. For example, I mean, there are several diseases. You can get cancer from smoking, which will keep you away from working as hard and getting as much done.
Can you clarify the issues with your top disease that you brought up? Top disease that you brought up in your opening statements?
It's just states that from Georgia Health Service that people of lower social classes are more likely to suffer from pneumonia, many other infectious parasitic diseases. And men are more likely to suffer from cancer and disease of the nervous system, which can be caused by stress, extreme time stress, while women suffer more from metabolic disorders.
Are you okay? 2 minutes prep time. 3 minutes for rebuttal.
My opponent stated that 11.8% of African Americans live in poverty, while 4.4% of white Americans live on the poverty line. But since there is like comparing to white, there's a really small community of black people. The country has only 40 million African Americans, while over 200 million white Americans, which proves that when we actually translate those statistics into actual numbers of people, you will end up being the same number, and even for white people it's going to be even more, even a bigger number.
My opponent also stated that race is closely connected to class, and because of that, white people dominate. But white people dominate because they have more money, not because of the color of their skin. Meaning, they dominate because they have more money, which puts them in a higher social class. But the color of their skin doesn't define whether they're rich or if they're poor. So, which proves that class creates more obstacles to success than race.
My opponent was also stating the issue with education, and where some African Americans cannot be able to afford it. Well, they actually, a percentage of all white full-time undergraduate students in higher education in 2004 who received some form of financial aid was 74%, versus 89% of black students, which means that in actuality, a lot of African Americans have opportunity for a good education, and therefore for a good job afterwards. And since there are no actual statistical complaints, I cannot really say that non-graduating African Americans didn't graduate because of their skin color, not because of some other issues.
Yeah.
Okay. Rebuttal, for your rebuttal.
So, our opponents so far have not acknowledged the part that, or the connection between people of certain races being in certain classes. And the fact is that there are a large majority of minorities that are not in poverty, because that statistic is just poverty, but in the lower classes. The top fifth of people who earn the top fifth most money a year make up 87.93%, or white people make up 87.93% of that top fifth, whereas all of the other minorities make up less than 10% of it. So, obviously, there is a correlation between white people dominating the higher classes and people of minorities.
I would also like to state the fact my opponent brought up the whole quote-unquote bad health comes not able to work, end quote. And I would like to state the fact that bad health can also be viewed just as simple as a common cold. Someone can view bad health as a common cold, but does not keep a person from working. Just because you're sick doesn't mean that you're unable to go out and work. I would also like to bring up the point that smoking, falling back to success, that still has not been fully clarified. Just because you smoke doesn't hold you back from trying to achieve to a higher census. It has nothing to do with the social class at all. You have different levels of smoking people in different social classes.
And you haven't given any statistics that said that people in lower classes smoke more than people in the upper classes.
All right, you're gonna have one.
In conclusion, I would like to say that because we live in a capitalist society, a lot of people cannot achieve what they want. They cannot achieve their American dream. People that are middle and lower class cannot pay for a good education. Therefore, they can't get a job and will have to work in low wage places like Walmart, where they will be getting a small salary and will never be able to provide their family with at least average life.
Even though there are scholarship programs, only few are actually receiving free education. For example, in Norway, university education is absolutely free and is being paid by government from taxes that citizens pay. But unfortunately, this is impossible to achieve in our capitalist society because everything is based on money that a lot of people don't even have. And the problem is that the actual problem is class in our society, but it just happens that some of the races or ethnicity, they fall into category because they don't have as much, they are not the majority of America's population. And of course, if there are more people of certain group, they are going to be more dominant. And I think it is perfectly normal. And the other reason there's a lot of minorities that are in lower social classes because there are a lot of immigrants in this country, and from most of them, you can't just get a really good job because, for example, if you've been a doctor, you would need to have some years of education to be a doctor in this country. So the actual issue is class, but it just happens that race falls in that category too. Before the
Like my opponent has stated that class and race falls into group one. They have stated themselves the fact that race falls into class as well. With that said, the education that's being earned right now for the whites to have a bachelor's degree is 70%. For African Americans, it's 8.7%. For Hispanic, it's 6.3%. For Asians, it's 6.2%. And the master's degree, for the whites, is 60%. For African American, it's 7.8%. For Hispanic, 4.4%. And for Asians, 4.8%. Race clearly plays a huge concept into trying to just to define to become even more successful, because you need these kind of college degrees, education, to get a very job in the United States.
Although they are the minority, there is obviously a larger divide in the numbers that actually end up going to colleges and earning degrees and making more money. So race does definitely play a big part in it, because in the history of the United States, people of, white people have been like on top and have been making the most money. And it has just been pretty recently that other people started to go to college and earn degrees. Yes.
Race plays a huge issue into trying to come successful. Considering the fact that the United States has gone through so many slavery issues, within, we have just overcame that less than 100 years ago, which isn't that long ago, it's actually recent. And yes, race plays a huge issue.
Time?